Hello, and welcome to the start of this week's reading vlog. I really just wanted to start it, so I'm still at work. I finished my work day, but I can't go home right away because my gym is on the way home, and I have a gym appointment like an hour from now because my mental health plan for the evening is go to the gym, eat fried chicken, hide in my spare room watching West Wing. When you're watching this, it's already happened, but tonight is election night, so yeah. But I just wanted to start the vlog. I should have started it yesterday, but I was lazy. But this week, things I'm reading. The Shadow Rising. I really want to just commit to reading this book this week. I'm getting really invested in it. I'm really intrigued about the threads he's set up. He's basically started 2 Dungeons and Dragons campaign. I'm not knocking him for it. It's just pretty obvious that that's what's happened here. And I've been listening to Binti Home. I decided to try the audiobook, and I do think this narrator gives Binti a better voice for me. And so Shadow Rising thoughts I will link up above my vlog from last week because I have quite a few spoiler-free thoughts in general about the Wheel of Time. And so that's what you can expect in the vlog this week, my thoughts on the Shadow Rising and Binti Home. My first impressions on Binti Home is that it's going to be a pretty introspective, character-driven novella. We're following Binti, who in the first book is going to this school. She's an amazing mathematician, can do this thing called treeing and things with currents, which is an interesting sci-fi thing that reminds me of a lot of the sci-fi elements from Nine Fox Gambit, where it's like almost fantastical and how crazy like this science thing is. And she has this friend who's a Medusa, and Medusas and humans have always been at odds and in great violent conflicts. And so it's about Binti's weird friendship with this Medusa. I'm really not convinced about it myself. Her having to deal with herself and her identity and dealing with the trauma introduced in the last book. So I'm really interested to see where things go. I do think it's going to be a very quiet story that I sit in. I don't think it's going to be very plot-driven, but I could be wrong. I have no idea what to expect. So those are the reading things. Potentially, if Dawnshard drops, I might be pausing Wheel of Time a little bit to read that. We'll see. It depends on how engrossed I am in Wheel of Time. Yeah, and otherwise, that's the start to this vlog, and let's see where this week goes. It's starting off good. My experiment that I couldn't do last week because I was dumb and didn't order supplies, I was able to do this week. And it's looking promising, but like, it's science, and science always finds a way to go wrong sometimes. It's really quite disheartening. Grad school is very hard, but I will check in when I have more thoughts. So, updated thoughts, and I have thoughts. Let's start with Binti Home. I decided to pick this one up this week, and it's honestly been such a good audiobook for the week I'm having, or the week a lot of us have been having. Not to get into that. Hopefully by the time you're seeing this, that's all over. But Binti Home is the sequel to Binti, and we're following Binti. How many times can I say her name? And she has been at this school for a year, and getting to that school was quite a traumatic journey to the point where she now suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder. And we're kind of following that, and that's just been really calming in some ways. Like, I started listening to it yesterday, and yesterday I woke up with some really bad anxiety. Like I would have called it an anxiety attack. So, but I still had to go to work, I still had to function, and listening to that audiobook and listening to Binti talk about her struggles and how she continues through her day was really calming. And then I listened to it later when I went to go get myself Chipotle, because comfort food is real right now, and I do love me a Chipotle bowl. You then get to see her family and her interact and the struggles between tradition and individuality, and that was really cool. And like, I feel for Binti so much. Like, it's a rough family. Like, but I'm also trying to understand it because it is very much a different culture than what I'm used to. I mean, I went away to school. My mom was more than supportive. She never once tried to be like, well, why don't you stay around home, etc. Like, she really knew that I wanted to go away, and she was very supportive. That is not what happened in Binti's family, unfortunately, because of culture. And I'm still trying to unpack why Binti and this, I think I might have said Medusa in the last clip. I think it's a Medu. And I think that's how it's supposed to be said or spelled. They kind of have like tentacles and are like jellyfish. So Medusa is not far off from a good description for them. But they're like friends slash family. And I feel like that's always been rough for me because they are temperamentally very different from Binti. They are a very violent, passionate, quick to aggression race, and Binti's very peaceful. But it kind of makes sense that Binti has befriended this Medu because she is a master harmonizer. But that's also been something that's been hard for me to connect with because I can't understand. Like, if you've read the first book, you know what happens. And it's just like, I can't understand how you are okay with what happened. But she really is. So she's just a stronger, better person than me. But that's been a really good audiobook for the week, surprisingly. I picked it up knowing it looked into mental health, but I didn't know how that would resonate with me and my current mental health, but it's been pretty good. And then I've read significantly more of The Shadow Rising since I last chatted. I know, I love my fuzz. And some really cool stuff's happened. So the world building that everyone's always raved about from this series is finally like showing through. Like, we had some really awesome history bits that I'm just like, yes, more history, please, more. It was really cool, the history bits too, and how it was executed. Like, why can't Jordan write everything like he wrote those 3 chapters? I knew that it was going to be a good 3 chapters too, because I've been like voxering with Jade and Stephanie, and Jade was like, oh my gosh, you're at one of my favorite parts. When you're done reading these chapters, you need to talk to me. So that was really cool. I will say Jordan did a thing that I'm always annoyed at when authors do this. Like, Jordan has a very big world, and because of that, he's also made lots of names, and the names are all tied to the cultures, and none of them are remotely related to names I'm used to, except for Matt. But even Matt is not short for Matthew. It's short for something else, and it's spelled with 1 T. But there was like a character name that I thought was a different character, and I got really excited, and it was just that they were spelled almost the same. I'm just like, when you do storytelling, you get to choose the names, you get to choose how things work, and it's just like not ideal communication. And this happens all the time. Like, I'll be in scenes where there are 2 characters who have very similar names, and yes, I know cultures have similar names all the time, but it's really confusing in a series that already has like thousands of named characters. Like, they could at least be unique, at least unique when they're together. But that's just like a complaint I'm probably going to have till the end of time with this series. That didn't take away from the awesome world building that's just happened. And yeah, I will also say that some of the relationship dynamics are frustrating. I mean, to some extent they are young 20s, I think, late teens, young 20s. But like, sometimes I'm just like, there is danger. Let this go. Like, I just want to like, I don't know, shake them. Just like, this is not important. But I mean, they are late teens, early 20s. No one's always completely rational, but I do find that just sometimes gets on my nerves. But those are my thoughts, and I'm hoping to read a lot more of The Shadow Rising today. I'm getting a really good groove with it, and I've finished a lot of my other adulting, so that would be nice. And so yeah, that's this check-in. It's happening. We got some nice cat here. She's very happy I'm home. So I do have reading updates. So this is my iPad. I don't think you guys see it very often, but I've been reading Dawn Chardon here, and I started How Long Till Black Future Month yesterday. And I think I might make a separate vlog where I go through my thoughts of each of these stories and like have that be sort of like a mini review slash thoughts video on this collection. But The first story is, what's it called? It's called, first of all, this introduction, stellar. I'll read anything Jemison writes, but The Ones Who Stay and Fight, with the week we're all having, this was a story that reminds me why the fight's not over, why you gotta keep fighting, what our goal is. But, I mean, Jemison's amazing. And then, like I said, I'm reading a Sanderson, so my world's not over. Dawnshard's super fun so far. So, if you don't know, the novellas are kind of more just like side quests between each of the long epics. Here, I'll open it up so you can see. I think this is the thumb it needs. Yeah. Go to the cover. So, yeah, there's the cover of Dawnshard. Dawnshard follows a character from the interludes who is a traitor, and events happen, and she's finds herself in a situation where she keeps having to reorient her interactions with the world, and I think it's done pretty well. I'm trying to be vague so I don't spoil what happens to this interlude character, but what I really like about this story, as just like a fun quest story, is that there was an interlude with a different character that just ended abruptly, and I think this story is going to answer that interlude's questions. So I'm just here binging this book today. I think I only have like 2 hours left, and I really like it a lot more than Edge Dancer, mainly because I like this character more. Isn't that right, Fuzz? Yeah, I mean, I don't mind Lift, but I prefer the characters we talk about here more than Lift. Also, this book has Lopin in it, and Lopin's a fine character for me, although like Lift, I find him in small doses more enjoyable. And actually, I think he was one of the perfect supporting characters to put in this story. So really enjoying it, super excited to have that and Jemison to get me through my Friday. And once I finish Dawnshard, I will go back to The Shadow Rising. But I haven't had a new Cosmere release in a really long time, so this just had to be read. And that's this check-in. So Michael Nip, whose channel you should be following, and I'll link down below, but he keeps sending me Voxer messages about Dawnshard and how I need to finish it and how it has like these repercussions and it's crazy. And I'm working on it, but I still have, like, according to this predictive reading time, an hour and a half left. Since we got it through the Kickstarter, I don't know how many pages this is. I know how many words that is, because Sanderson told us, but I don't know what that means. I just know it's longer than Edge Dancer, which was 277 pages. But I just need to know. But also, like, if you've been wondering, should I read Dawnshard before Rhythm of War? Obviously, it's probably not required reading, but if you're there for the world building, I don't know how you don't read this, because I'm only 60% of the way in, and there are implications. I'll probably make a video talking about it. Don't know if it'll be spoiler filled or not. I don't know, but I gotta get back to this. Oh, and we're getting Venezuelan food tonight, and I'm super excited. Vlog. It is Sunday. I just got back from this wonderful walk, so hopefully you'll see that with clips including the Venezuelan food and some board games I played and a little kitten you know, wholesome content, because this week was a lot. It's over now, but it was a lot. But I've finished Dawnshard and Binti Home since I last talked to you guys. I have not read more of The Shadow Rising because I got Dawnshard, and as you saw, I dived into it. But let's talk about those two things I finished. So, Dawnshard. I'm going to keep this brief, but I am going to do a review on it, I think. I'm going to collect my thoughts, and maybe next weekend you will, I guess the weekend after you see this, you will see a video review discussion from me. It might be spoilerly, like you had to have read through Oathbringer, because there's a lot I can't talk about in this novella without spoiling little things in the series, like not big things, but if you want zero spoilers, I can't even tell you about the main character a lot. I can tell you she's in interludes, I can tell you she's one of my favorites, I can even tell you who she is, but I can't tell you a lot about her situation, and I feel like that's a big part of the plot. I really do like how Sanderson handles that situation. I think he handled that with a lot of grace, and I want to talk about that more. I will also say that this also paired with a different interlude in Oathbringer that I really liked, where I was like, wait, why did we leave this? This was so cool and mysterious, and why is this happening? And now I get to know why it happened. So I got to answer that mystery, be with one of my favorite characters. It was just really fun. I've also not binged a book in a long time, and I haven't had a new Cosmere book in 3 years. Like, I'm saying book. I honestly have no idea how many pages it even was. It just took me 5 to 6 hours to read, so I guess that's a book. But I really loved it, and now I'm so pumped for Rhythm of War. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say here. I really liked it. I will say, if you're someone who's like, do I need to read this before Rhythm of War? It depends on why you're reading the Stormlight Archives, I think. Is it required for character development of the main characters or the plot of the main series? I would say probably not. If you love the world building and the Cosmere, and that's part of your love of the Stormlight Archives, you need to read this. There are huge Cosmere implications in this novella. Huge. So that's what I'll say there. Like, I'm not going to say it's required reading, but I mean, if you've read this much of the Stormlight Archives, I assume you have some level of investment in the Cosmere world building and the Stormlight world building, and you'll want to know what's been known. You'll want to be in the know, is what I assume. But I don't think it'll affect your main characters or the main plot arc. I don't think. Or if it does, I'm sure Sanderson explains it on the page. He's pretty good at that. And now, Binti Home. So, I just finished this like an hour ago, so I'm still like collecting my thoughts. I will say I've already downloaded Binti and the Night Masquerade, or the third one, because Binti Home is a bit of a cliffhanger. I say a bit, that's putting it mildly. It is a cliffhanger. Was not expecting that. It was such a quiet story for so long, and then it just was like, ah! So I really love the themes of the Binti books. I think that's my favorite part of them, is that they really discuss these great themes of self-identity, of culture, about prejudice, about identity overall. I'm sorry if I said that already, but that's a big part of the series. Yeah, about what is your responsibility to yourself versus your community. It's definitely got a lot of that going on. Self-hatred, self-loathing, shame. Mental health is a big part of it because Binti is suffering from PTSD. It does a great job of exploring themes. I also really like the world building, although it is a, I don't know if it would be classified as softer sci-fi, but a lot of the sci-fi is not explained to the point where it almost feels magical, if that makes sense. And I really like it, and I kind of, maybe when I finish it, depending on how I like the complete arc, want to reread it to see what I can pick up about the world, because the world is really cool. And I really like the cultures I've been introduced to and the way I've learned how this world is set up and where we are in the future. I have really liked the world and the sci-fi elements, although those are a bit muddier to me. Like, I don't... Also, I'm sorry if you're hearing my cat. He's just, like, yelling over there. He's probably hungry. But it is only 5 p.m. It is not dinner time. But yeah, so I really like those things. I don't think I love the plot or how the plot moves. I don't mind the pacing, although I find, like I said, sometimes the pacing like turns really quick. It did that in Binti too. And there are, like I've said in previous clips, there are some relationships I don't understand, and there are some cultural things that I find it hard to grasp, but that doesn't negatively affect my experience. It's just, these are things that I think about a lot, and I'm like not sure where I stand. But I will say that like, as a story, I don't feel satisfied. Like I love the themes, I like Binti, I liked the world building, but as like a story I picked up, I started in one place and I ended in another, and the way I got there was weird. Like the events that affected change throughout the story was a little odd to me. Like I never understood what triggered what and why we took a left sort of thing. And like I said, I want to reserve judgment till after I finish the third book, because like I said, it was a huge cliffhanger. It's a huge one. So I'm curious to see how the whole thing ends. And depending on how the whole thing ends will determine if I reread this one day and my final thoughts. And maybe I'll do a whole video review discussion on this work, because all three in the short story together are like 300 some pages. And it's been an interesting journey so far. And like I said, with the week I was having with my mental health, it was cathartic. I really did like connecting to a character who is also struggling with their mental health. And like I said, the themes are 10 out of 10. So like the themes in the world building are very captivating to me. I just kind of wish it was longer. I feel like that's my theme lately, and meanwhile I don't want to read this like 1,000-page book I have. But we'll see. My brain is like, well, it is kind of longer. It's all one novel if you just read this last part. So we'll see. I already downloaded the audiobook because I do like the narrator, and it's going to be nice for like my walks now, because I'm no longer going to the gym because I'm now in quarantine mode, because in 2 weeks I'm going to go visit my grandmother, and I will not be a carrier of COVID. I'm just going to have a good time with her, read a bunch of books. So working from home for 2 weeks, and that means working out is walking again. But that's it for this vlog. Let me know what you read, watched, consumed this week, how you're holding up. I assume hopefully better. Things are still rough. There's still a lot of work to be done, but things are definitely not as bad as they could be, I guess is what I'll say. Oh, and I guess I haven't shown you guys in a while since I'm over here by my knitting stuff. I finished this actually last week, the back of the sweater, but I never showed you guys. So this is the back of the Knives Out sweater, and I'm working on the front right now. And then I just got to get sleeves, and then I'll have a ridiculous sweater I've made, and I'm pretty happy about it. But that's it for this one. Like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.